Today, from the book of Colossians, I want to talk about Christian circumcision. Now, that word may have got your attention, particularly for the guys. As you may be aware, in the Old Testament, for the children of Israel, the Israelites, ever since the time of Abraham, male children were circumcised on the 8th day. And this was a mark that separated them as a people for God. Now, circumcision is also mentioned in the New Testament. And I'd like to read from Colossians chapter 2, verses 9 through 12. For in Christ all the fullness of the deity lives in bodily form, and you have been given fullness in Christ, who is the head over every power and authority. In him you were also circumcised. Interesting. He's talking to Christians here. In him you were also circumcised in the putting off of the sinful nature, not with the circumcision done by hands of men, but with the circumcision done by Christ. So he's saying, we as Christians are circumcised as well, but it's not the putting off of the flesh type of circumcision that the Israelites had in the Old Testament. So what does he mean? What kind of circumcision is this? Well, let's keep reading. Let me start in verse 11 again. In him you were also circumcised in the putting off of the sinful nature, not with a circumcision done by the hands of men, but the circumcision done by Christ, having been buried with him in baptism and raised with him through your faith in the power of God who raised him from the dead. Here in the text, Paul refers to baptism as our circumcision, our putting ourselves off, putting ourselves to death, the old man of sin, and setting it apart. And so we are circumcised as Christians. Our baptism is our circumcision. And just as the physical circumcision in the Old Testament for the Israelites marked them belonging to God and being a people of God, so our circumcision, our baptism, marks us as his people and identifies us with him. So it's interesting that baptism not only is part of the plan of salvation. Once we have confessed who Jesus is and believe who he is and repented, we are baptized. And that baptism is the identifying mark of us as Christians. We are spiritually circumcised. We put off the old man and we put on the new. So I find it interesting if someone were to ask you if you are circumcised. As a Christian, we'd say yes, spiritually speaking. So let me read that text one more time. Beginning with verse 11 of Colossians 2. In him you were also circumcised in the putting off of the sinful nature, not with the circumcision done by the hands of men, but the circumcision done by Christ, having been buried with him in baptism and raised with him through your faith in the power of God who raised him from the dead. So as the circumcision in the Old Testament identified people as belonging to God, so the spiritual circumcision, our baptism, identifies us as the people of God under the new covenant. I hope you have a blessed day.